So I want to switch gears here a little bit. If you don't know, Ben wrote a book. I don't know, how long has it been? 3 years ago, 4 years ago that you wrote?
Yeah,
Single, dating. I don't know why I can never get the order right. Single, dating, engaged, married. Am I the only one that struggles with that? I don't know. Okay.
No.
But so I'm sure if you're watching, you have probably read this book. If you haven't, it is phenomenal. I could not encourage you enough. Here's a great quarantine read. Go pick it up today. Fantastic read. But what's fun, Ben, is before you wrote this book, I can't remember what passion it was. It might have been, I don't know. It was a long time ago, 07, 08, I don't know. But you actually gave a message on singleness. In fact, it was so long ago, she was my girlfriend and now my wife. She had the message on a CD. Like that's the only way we could re-listen, all access pass didn't exist. Like there wasn't any of that, right? And so, but you gave this message on singleness being a gift. And we'd never heard that before. And I mean, just revolutionized our thought process. And I mean, it was just so life-changing. I never thought I'd go to Passion and hear a message on relationships. That'd be one of the most memorable things I'd ever heard. And so why is singleness such a gift? Because that's kind of a concept that, most 20-somethings or anybody for that matter might not think so. And then why is it so hard to view it as one?
Yeah. That's a great question, man. Yeah, that message was born out of personal conviction from my own life. Because, I was like, we used to joke in college, maybe people still do this, where they're like, hey, who do you think will get married first? Who do you,
right?
Like, there was no debate. They were all like, yeah, Ben will get married last, if at all. Well, like, yeah, that's fair. Like, and then that happened. And I remember I had friends that were like, man, I write a journal to my future wife and tell her what I'm praying for her for. And I was like, dude, you're not promised a wife. Like, you're not promised tomorrow. Like, I'm like, so if you want to write her notes, fine, but like put in an asterisk, like you may not exist. Like, you don't know that. You don't know if you'll get hit by a bus tomorrow.
Sure.
So I didn't know what to do with singleness because I wasn't actively like I wanted to be married, but I was like, if this can't just be a holding pattern to wait to get married.
Sure.
And I had a legitimate, like, then what am I doing with my time? And Paul to the Corinthians, 1 Corinthians 7, he says, I wish you were like me, single. And he said, I say this not to put a restraint on you. He's like, not to hurt you, not to literally, he says, put a noose around your neck. He says, but to promote what's appropriate and pursue an undistracted devotion to the Lord. And I remember for me, that was revolutionary because he was saying, not just like God has a purpose for your life. He was saying your singleness has a purpose, and it's for an undistracted devotion to the Lord. And most people I know, their singleness is filled with distraction, or just career ambition. And Paul says, no, the particularities of your singleness. And then he goes into details. You have freedom from the financial and time obligations of marriage. That freedom is meant to be leveraged for the number one relationship you were made for. And that is to be devoted. And that word devoted means to be really good at being close beside the Lord. He's like, all this freedom you have, all this discretionary time, which will go away, it has a wonderful purpose. You could cultivate intimacy with the Lord. And that hit me, man, because I remember like I was at a suburban church and these guys were like, hey, do you want to take off for the weekend? I was like, yeah, sure, man. So I showed up and I was ready to roll. I threw a backpack in the back of my truck and was like, let's ride. And I showed up and it took them like 3 hours to pack up the endless amount of paraphernalia you need to like transport children. And I was like, dude, your life is such a hassle. And that's when it hit me. I'm like, mine's not. I was like, I could be in Europe tomorrow. I can be anywhere, anytime, whatever. And God was like, yeah, and there's purpose for that. You're either going to do it or you're not. So, you didn't ask this, but like, that was big for me. I got rid of my TV because I realized I'm not disciplined enough to stop watching TV. And I'm not saying everybody should, but I realized if I exist to know him, I'm going to take it serious. And I realized I'd never read the Bible all the way through. So I did that. And then I started writing out by hand books in the Bible. I was like, if I really think God exists, if I really think heaven and hell is a real thing, let me not play around with it. I either believe it or I don't. If I do believe it, let me take it serious. And I fell in love with God in my 20s, man. And I looked up and I was almost like didn't want to let go of my singleness, which sounded like a shot at Donna, my wife. But I was like, I don't know, singleness is kind of working for me. You know, I was like, I'm
Yeah,
growing a lot and God's
sure.
using. But, you know, I'm happy I got married, but I'm happy that singleness chapter closed. And I was happy to look back and go, okay, I wasn't perfect in it, but I didn't miss the point. I didn't miss it.
It's good.
You know what I'm saying? And I don't want, and that's why I wrote the book, is because I, at least in that first part,
right.
I want people to not miss it.
Yeah.
You know?
Man, that's good. Yep. God, don't waste it. Don't be so enamored with what could be next that you miss what God's gonna do right now, kind of thing. I mean,
yeah, sorry, that was your other question. I think that's one of the ways the enemy gets at us, is it's we tend to amplify the benefits of some other stage and minimize its problems, and we minimize the benefits of our stage and amplifies problems.
Yeah.
But that's a good way to get you to waste your life. So you got to look and go, okay, I want to be married. I have a verse for that. Cast all your cares upon him because he cares for you.
Good.
All right, I'm supposed to hand that to him.
Yeah.
And then he says, and I've handed you singleness to pursue an undistracted devotion to me. I'm like, all right, well then I'm going to take that up and I'm going to do that. I'm not going to miss my moment. And
I love that.
Dude, I tell you what, it's majority single people that within 2 years built an amazing church in the middle of DC that's blowing up. Like, we were running out of space, having to add gatherings. It's like this church has exploded, and it's on the backs of motivated 20-somethings that aren't wasting their singleness. It's an inspiring crowd to run with. So
that's cool.
So don't waste it, man.
I love it. I love it. So, okay, let's talk about the people that are dating. I'll put you on the spot. This is a very open-ended question. Do with it what you will. What is your best dating advice?
Best dating advice. To me, in the same way singleness exists for devotion to the Lord.
Yeah.
Dating, I think you got to understand, what are we doing? And that's, most people in dating, they're like, I don't even know what we're doing. Are you seeking, like, what's the end goal? Are you seeking comfort, companionship in this lonely world? Or you go, no, dating is a process of evaluation to see if we're meant to run together forever. And what I see is a lot of people get frustrated in dating because maybe one of them wants to get married and the other one's like, I don't know. So let's just languish in the ambiguity of this strange semi-committed phase. It creates a lot of anxiety. Whereas in the Bible, dating wasn't the primary means to find a spouse, but the safest place for your emotions and your body was in a covenant with somebody. The safest place to divulge all your emotions is someone that says, I'm going to be with you for better, for worse. Safest place to offer your whole body is with someone that said, I'm going to love you, sickness or in health. So dating is the process of, like, are you that person? So what I tell people in dating, man, is like, it's an evaluation process. You're just watching that person's life and seeing, are we a fit? And to me, that's just such a clarifying thing.
Yeah, that's
I'm just
good.
going, oh, okay. So I'm not starting to try to find the rules of, like, oh, you're my girlfriend now, so do we hold hands or do we kiss now? If you're like, hey, man, you're just trying to figure out, is this my wife or not? And to me, I think, you know, and I don't want to preach the whole book, but I do think you're looking for cause. Are we going the same direction in life?
Yeah. You're
looking for character. Can I trust you? Are you going to hurt me? And you're looking for chemistry. Do we get along? And so for me, I think in dating, it's, if you pull back all the sexuality, which to me really makes the evaluation process complicated.
Sure.
If you can pull that back, you can assess fairly quickly, like, do we enjoy hanging out with each other? Do I trust you when I watch you make decisions? When I see things not go your way? When I see you hanging out with people that you're not attracted to physically? How do you treat them? Like I'm watching your character. And I think evaluating each other can be done in a really healthy way, that even if you don't end up together, you're still all right. But most people, they're like, oh, dating is like, I'm supposed to, okay, let's fool around physically. And that's really fun. And let's keep doing that. And then let's sort of be married, but not really. And then it goes for years, and it takes years to realize, dude, I don't even like you. And then the breakup hurts so much because your body's connected to that person. And you've divulged so much when really you never ask those basic questions of, do you have character? Can I trust you? And do we have chemistry? Can we hang out for a couple decades? You know?
That's good. Yeah. Process evaluation. Yeah. And
Yeah.
you know, the nice thing about that too is you run and Christians, I think, do this a lot. It's like after date one, oh man, I don't know if I can marry him. You don't know yet. Go on.
No.
If you want to go on another date, go on another date. Like there's there's this speed that we want to like know, or God hasn't told me yet. I'm like, well, it probably hasn't told them either. You know, like there's just this
Yeah.
process of evaluation that is
Well,
helpful.
and to me, it takes the pressure off. Like it helped me in college when my sister showed up in college and I asked the question I'd never asked, which was, how would I want a guy to treat her?
Hmm.
And I'm like, well, I would like him to basically fulfill all the one another's in this book. You know, I want him to be a blessing to her in whatever manner is appropriate for someone that's not her spouse, like encourage her with words, you know, spur her on towards love and good deeds, like all that sort of stuff. And then they'll figure out, are we just buddies or are we meant to be together forever? And then God convicted me, like, do you treat women like that? Once I got that in my head with dating, like pressure's off. I just have to be around you, be clear, be honest. Hey, I'm enjoying getting to know you. Would you like to go to dinner? But I trust God with your life and mine. If you don't want to, tell me no, and we're okay. But all I have to do is just be loving, kind, gracious, full of grace and truth, be honest with you. And then maybe we look up and go, you know, we're not a fit. And once I got that clarity, I had that happen with a girl where I'm like, you're awesome, but I just don't think we're a fit. And she was like, I don't think so either. And we're like, well, that's a bummer. But it wasn't like, oh, now we have to like divide up our friends and I can't see you. Like it just took so much of the drama out.
Right.
To go, I got to treat you like my sister in Christ. And what we found out is we had the same cause, she had character for days, but the chemistry, we weren't a good relational fit. We ran out of things to talk about.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
No,
but if I would have been fooling around with her body, we probably would have been dating for like 6 more years.
Sure. And then the breakup would have been a disaster.
It would have been horrible. Oh yeah, because now we have the science behind it, you know, of like you literally, it releases hormones that promote bonding.
Yep.
And you go, man, so I'm not trying to shame anybody that struggled with this.
Sure.
I've trust me, I've made a mess in a million ways of relationships. But what I've learned is, there's grace for that. And then you just treat each other like a brother and sister in Christ. And you'll figure out over time and let the community help you go, this person, we're better with each other.
Sure. No, that's good. So, okay. So we're kind of working through the dating phase. Let me ask this. What would, we've talked about this at the living room, and maybe we can kind of couple these two questions, but you know, how did you know you were going to marry when you're going to marry Donna? Like, how did you know? And then talk about the myth of the one, you know, like there's the one person, you know, so talk about the one, and then how did you get to a point where you knew, Donna's going to be the one that I'm going to marry?
Yeah. Well, so, you know, with the one, you know, I think about Elizabeth Elliot, who wrote these beautiful books about her romance with Jim Elliot, you know, and how much they trusted God as young 20-somethings and were finally able to get married. And a few years later, he was tragically killed. And so she was 20-something's widow, and she remarried. And then that husband years later died, and she remarried again. So you're like, okay, did she have the one? Like, no, she had 3.
Yeah.
But was God guiding her life? Yes. So do I think God controls all things? Yes, I do. I think he works all things according to the counsel of his will. So do you have a one you're supposed to marry? Well, maybe. Or maybe you have 3. Maybe you have 0. I don't know. So there's nowhere in the Bible where it says you're guaranteed this one person, that y'all just have to find each other. You have matching symbols in your head.
Sure.
But do I believe God controls all of history? Yes. And that takes a lot of pressure off me. Of going, then what mechanism has he given us to discern, am I supposed to marry this person or not? Well, I think he's given us, you pursue the same cause. You know, Paul said that, don't be yoked together with unbelievers. You know, yoke binds yourself. And if their life's going this way and your life's going that way, it's not going to work. So my first criteria, like with Donna, is like, whoever she thinks runs this world is going to determine what she thinks is valuable. And your values shape your priorities, and your priorities shape your decisions shape your life. So I got to look and say, like, do you think God runs this place and is the most beautiful thing in creation? Then you're going to want to know him. You're going to want to make him known. That's what I believe. If you don't believe that, then we're going different directions. So that one right there, what's the cause they're chasing? Is it the Lord or not? That eliminates a big swath of humanity.
Sure.
You know?
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And then you go, do they have a God-shaped character? Like, not perfect, but they want to pursue him. You know, it's interesting. Genesis 24 is the longest chapter in Genesis. It's about finding a wife for Isaac. And Abraham's one criteria is she's got to be willing to come with us, because they had walked by faith. They had gone where God called them to live by faith, this heroic life of faith. And he said, if she's not willing to do that, forget it. I'd rather my son be single than settle for someone who's not willing to walk radically by faith. So I think you want to look for that. Does this person want to walk with God, whatever that means, whatever that costs? I'm his. And that's going to shake it down to even less people. But then once you get that crowd, like if you're at a great church where people are seeking the Lord and want to be shaped by him, then you're not going to date a psycho. Everyone you date is like an amazing person. And so at that point, you're like, these are all great people. Now it just comes down to, do we like hanging out? Like if we're together for months, do I run out of stuff to talk about? You're like, so everything else okay? Or do I realize, dude, we could talk for hours? Right. And it's a chemistry thing. And so those are the guiding principles. And there's ways to find it. You know, you read Song of Solomon, and you know, they use all the springtime imagery. When I'm around you, it's life-giving. Like I feel more alive and you're more alive. When we hit moments of conflict, that's where you see character. We navigated conflict in a way that honored each other, didn't undermine each other, that fought for unity, not just victory in the debate, but greater oneness. And I think all that should happen in the context of community, because, you know, when you're attracted to somebody, it throws all your chemicals off. You know, in Song of Solomon, she talks about like being intoxicated. It's like I've been drinking, like my decision-making is impaired. When you're infatuated with someone, she needed the girls, remember in Song of Solomon, to come around her and say, rightly do the maidens love him. Like, he's an appropriate person for you to feel infatuated by. So infatuation matters, but you need the community to look and say, that person does have character. That person does have chemistry with you. He's a good fit for you. So I would say, it's good. You want to do this in community as much as you can. And for Donna, just to answer your Donna question, like, I wasn't seeking a girl, but I saw her. She was leading worship at an event I was speaking at. And then even that, I was like, anyone can lead worship. You can lead worship just to be cool. I don't care about that. But I would watch her, and like, she was like discipling these young girls and mentoring them. And I was like, no one's applauding her for that. They're not even paying her for that. She's doing it because she loves Jesus and loves these girls. And I'm like, that's amazing. And then we hung out, and she could make me laugh. And not a lot of people can do that, actually. And so I was just like, oh, okay. And I just realized over time, man, this girl's pretty amazing. And then I got scared because I had all these commitment issues. But that's where community
every guy,
helps you.
right? Yeah. Sure.
Yeah. Well, but we were at a church where we had like couples. She had about 2 couples. I had about 2 that we were like, be around us, watch us, and tell us what you see. That's and cool. They helped us see. And then I don't want to go on and on and on, but we spent a summer apart because we were traveling in different directions. And I needed that time to evaluate, would I rather be with her or not? And I realized, imagining the next 20, 30, 40, 50 years of my life, I would rather than be with her than not with her. I was like, well, then there's my answer.
There we go. Yeah.
But
that's awesome.
So,
I love it. I love it. Well,
man.
He gave you a lot. There's still so much more. So if you haven't got that book, read the book. It's incredible. And speaking of books, I got round out here with a few more, Ben, and then we'll be out of here. Speaking of books, what books have you read, any point in your life, that have had a dramatic impact on your faith? What are just 1 or 2 or whatever just immediately pop up? Or maybe one you're reading right now and you love it. I don't know.
Yeah, no, that's
other than the Bible. That's a given, right? I mean,
I gosh, there's so many. I would say I'm thinking a lot about him now because he just died. J.I. Packer. Knowing God. was huge for me in my 20s. And I hope it circles back around. So if you're in this coronavirus season and wondering, what do I read? Read Knowing God. I mean, it's really beautiful and just helps you know him. Just it's so impactful for me. And then I remember reading John Piper's The Pleasures of God. He just went through like, what are all the things God loves? And I'm like, that's cool. When you're getting to know somebody, you want to know more about them and you want to know more about what they love. And those two books really helped me know God. John Owen, the old theologian, changed my life. I mean, I named my son Owen. It's hugely impactful for me.
That's cool.
And then I don't know, man, there's so many other books. I mean, I'm thinking a lot about John Perkins right now. His book With Justice for All, you know, is pretty powerful. John Perkins was beaten to near death by you know, in the 60s as a black man in the South, just a horrible event by police officers. But was able to seek, he said, I had a gospel that was big enough to not just save my black brothers and sisters, but my white ones as well. And his story of reconciliation is powerful. And, you know, in these days, I like, Lord, give us more voices like John Perkins. And,
that's good.
Those are the first ones that come to mind.
Yeah,
it's probably
it's great, man. Those are great. Hey, you just add into your reading list, people. You've got plenty of stuff here before school starts. Jump on the reading list. So you talked about you're going on walks. Are there any things, maybe even pre-pandemic, whatever, but what are some of the routines or disciplines that you've built into your rhythms that keep you grounded, that keep you growing in your relationship with Jesus? Like, what are some of those routines and rhythms that's like, hey, here's a kind of and I know it looks different for everybody, but what does that look like for you?
Yeah, and it can look different for us at different seasons. Like for me, I had a rhythm for years where I would wake up, grab my journal, right at the top, how do you feel? And then I would just write out all my feelings. And because I realized if I just wake up and read the Bible and just reading it like a book or to do, I'm not letting God deal with my heart. And so I'd write out all these emotions, and then I would read the word and let Ben's honest, raw emotions be transformed by the word of God. And but I've realized now that for whatever reason in this coronavirus time, that's been hard for me to do. I've found that I can tap into that place of honesty easier on walks. And so I get up early in the morning and just take off and take a walk with the Lord. And but for me, that's the goal is not discipline. The goal is devotion. And once you realize that, you go, the disciplines serve devotion, you know, and my goal is to cultivate intimacy with the Lord. And so I want to prioritize that. If I exist to know him, then let me make that my first priority. Maybe the only other thing I would say, man, that I think is helpful, and it was revolutionary for me in my 20s, I just did it today. I do it every Monday. I write out on a piece of paper 7 days a week, break up the week in 30-minute increments. And then I write down what are all my roles under God. So for me right now, it's teacher, leader, administrator, steward of my home, you know, and that sort of thing. And then I dump out everything I have to do underneath those respective roles. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because I want to live a purposeful life. And I'm like, well, then what are the roles God gave me? So if you're a student right now, you'd be like, I'm a student in these classes. I'm a child of God, meant to know him. I'm the leader of this organization. I'm a volunteer in this organization. Maybe these are your roles. Okay, what are all my obligations? Rather than letting them roll around in my head, I vomit them out on a piece of paper, put them all out in front of me. And then as part of my devotional life, I pray over them. And then I take them and start putting them into my week in those 30-minute increments. And what I found with a lot of 20-year-olds is they would say, I feel so busy, but then you ask them, what'd you do today? And they're like, I don't even know. So they feel unproductive and stressed. And unproductivity and stress is a tool of the enemy to make you go to an oasis for refuge against that stress. And most of us, that oasis is phones. And for a lot of young men, it's pornography. And so where that fight starts is, well, then let me be intentional with my day. And I found a sense of purpose is really liberating and empowering for a lot of people. So I would say, look at your week and as part of your devotional life, go, what is the roles God has called me to? What are the little things I would do to fulfill that role under God? What's the time God gave me? Now I will organize my life by priority, not proximity. Because proximity will lead you to just, should we watch another one? Yeah, it already started.
Yeah.
Watch another one, watch another one, watch another one. 2 a.m. Oh, crap. And then they're like, yeah, I just can't read my Bible. Like, yeah, you can. You just have to not be a victim of your schedule, be the master of it. So I would tell them, I do that every week, and it's lowers anxiety, raises a sense of purpose. I feel better about life.
Love that. Man, that's awesome.
Yeah, man.
That's good, man. That's good. All right, Ben. I got one more I got two more. I don't know, you would call them big, not big, whatever you want, I don't know, but you're a pastor, author, preacher, and you probably, I mean, you felt this, we felt this when we were in college, and I guarantee you probably still talk to young people about it, but there's this sense of trying to figure out what direction my life is going, and what my passions are, and what my gifting is, and what my major is going to be, what my mom wants it to be, what my dad wants it to be, all that, right? What would you, what nuggets of wisdom would you give to a college student as they're just trying to identify giftings or passions, or even trying to make career decisions? How would you encourage anyone kind of trying to figure that out?
Yeah, I would say the two things.
Yeah.
One would be excel at the revealed things. So just whatever God has revealed, excel at that, be great at that, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, I forget where the verse is, where it says, be excellent at what is good and be innocent of evil. So I'd look at your life and go, what am I doing that's evil? I'm entertained by things that horrify the Spirit of God. I don't want to do that anymore. And then what are some good things? I want to be great at those. I want to freaking crush those. So how do I be excellent at what is good? Excel at the revealed things. Just get really good at what He's already told you to do. And then be a student of yourself as you do it. That's what Paul told Timothy, right? Watch your life and your doctrine closely, persevere in this, and you'll save both yourself and your hearers. He told them, be a student of what you believe and be a student of you. And you will not only help yourself, you'll help everyone who you influence. That was his point, right? And so for me in college, I was like, I don't know what I should major in. Should I be in business? Should I be in whatever? And I just realized I'm going to know God. I'm going to make Him known. I'm going to encourage people, speak the truth to them. I'm going to get involved indiscriminately in anything that looks interesting. I'll take a major that looks interesting. I'll join organizations that seem interesting to me. And as I do that, I'm going to get to know God. I'm going to make Him known in every way I know how. And then I'm just going to watch myself. And what I realized is God often uses the community to help you kind of narrow that down. So in my 20s, I didn't know what I was good at. And then I was almost going to be a business major, but also kind of in ministry. And I'm like, am I the Jesus loving guy that sells stocks, or am I the pastor? And then I just watch myself, and it's like, if you give me 2 hours, I'm reading a book or ministering to people.
Yeah.
I have some business ability, but I don't love it. But I didn't know that about myself till I was a business major doing ministry. I was like, oh, okay. And people helped affirm that. Yeah, we don't really need you to be a stockbroker. You're better off teaching the Bible. You know, and then I got into ministry and did what you're doing, where you do everything. And I realized I hate event planning. It's super stressful. I'm terrible at it. But when I read the Bible, I'm always trying to think of how to explain it. And I wasn't good at that in my 20s, but I was good enough that people were like, hey, when you explain that, that's helpful. When you handle the money, it stresses all of us out. And I was like, oh, okay. So it's kind of the process of elimination within the context of community helps do that. So I would say get woven into a community because they can see you from angles you can't. And I'm not a big fan of spiritual gift tests. I think spiritual gifts are for what purpose? To build up the body till we all look like the head of Christ. So let the body help you. I mean, get involved in a church and serve wherever. Well, I don't know if I should go into missions or preaching. Well, do all of it and just get involved whatever's in front of you. And as you do that, the community will go, hey, you're great at this. You're not great at that.
Yeah.
But I'd take the pressure off. I mean, Nehemiah was a wine taster that became a wall builder.
Right.
I wouldn't get too hung up on the what. You know what I'm saying?
No, that's good, man. Yeah. And
he just knew, but when a crisis hit, he was praying Deuteronomy without even trying, because he had soaked his mind in the perspective of the Lord. And so he was just ready. So that's what I mean by excel at the revealed things. Yeah. And then jump in and let the community help you discern where you're maximally helpful. I think what helped me get off the dime in my 20s was not like, what am I interested in? What do I love? I'm like, I love a lot of things. I don't know what I love. I just started to ask, like, where am I maximally helpful for human beings? And people could help. People could go, yeah, you're not like, you shouldn't be a counselor. Like one-on-one, you don't know what you're doing. So you should stop doing that. The community can help you.
Yeah,
you know?
No, that's good, man. I love that. Where can I be maximally helpful to humanity? That's good.
And I know I'm oversimplifying it, but I know we're pressing time too. So
yeah, I
don't want to minimize the struggle. It's a struggle.
Sure. Yeah. But there is a pressure off. And man, yes, major. I'm not saying major isn't important, but if there's something that God's going to lead you to, your major is not going to stop it. You know what I'm saying? Like there's only, I mean, I was a finance major. I was the guy that was supposed to, I was the guy that was supposed to be trading stocks, and here I am pastoring. So, you know, I mean, it just he's going to do and take you wherever he wants to take you. And so,
100%.
yeah.
Man.
All right. Last question, Ben. I was excited about this question. It's probably, I don't know if my favorite question, one of my favorite questions. We do a series at the living room called Note to Self. And basically we bring in different people. It might doesn't be a communicator or a pastor. And they just kind of share what they would tell their freshman self if I could write them a note from the future. So to kind of close out our time together, if you were to write a note to your freshman self, knowing what you know now, what is something that it might say?
Yeah. I would probably quote Psalm 37 to myself. Trust in the Lord and do good. You know, it's like, so all the stuff I'm anxious about, I'm going to trust him. And then what am I going to do today? I'm going to do the good that's in front of me to do. Dwell in the land and cultivate faithfulness. That verse was so helpful to me in my 20s because I think we're naturally jumpy. Maybe I should move. Maybe I should move here. Maybe I should move. And I think one of the things the Lord has spoken to me a lot in life was just stay where you're at, dwell in the land and cultivate faithfulness. Just keep showing up. Keep showing up in the Word of God. Keep showing up in serving people. Keep showing up in wrestling honestly with me, and trust the Lord and do good and just cultivate where he has you planted, and you're going to bear fruit and you're going to make a difference. He does not want to waste your life. And so every time I think about what to tell the younger me, I tell him, just cool out a lot, bro. Like, don't be so anxious, but trust the Lord and do good. And I think I don't know that the 20-year-old me would have taken that advice, but when I have taken it, I go, yeah, it's good, man. Because honestly, I look at my life. I told a friend this the other day. I was like, dude, if you would have told me in my 20s that I was leading a thriving church in Washington, D.C., and Louis Giglio's my mentor, and we text each other and talk on the phone, and I'm doing this event I would have been like, I'd have started crying, like, I'm living the dream. And I was like, I'm here now. And I'm like, dude, and that guy wouldn't have understood how hard the dream is, how exhausting it is, how difficult, how much pain is involved. Like, the dream is brutal. But I look up and I'm like, but the good hand of the Lord has led me. And I didn't need to know all that in my 20s. I didn't. I look back and I'm like, I needed him. And so I would say, trust him, do good, dwell on the land, cultivate faithfulness. So
come on. That's awesome.
I'm praying for you guys. I'm praying for your people, man.
Thanks,
and just cheering y'all on. Yeah. Sorry if I was rambling. I got excited.
No, are you kidding me, man? Thank you for listen, we'll take the rambling all day from you. Seriously, thanks so much for doing this, man. We're super grateful, and hope you guys enjoyed that. Share it with your friends. Watch it again. You got all the time in the world. Ben, thanks so much, man.
Sure thing, brother. Thanks, man.